INEOS putting together a short list of new managers to replace Erik ten Hag, and Marcus Rashford reportedly wants to commit his future to Manchester United and doesn't want to leave the club in the summer. These are some of the topics we will be discussing on today's show. But before we jump into that, please smash a like on today's video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and let's get straight on into it. So let's start off with the story about Marcus Rashford then. So this story broke last night from a couple of different journalists, one of which being Ben Jacobs. And Ben Jacobs is reporting that Marcus Rashford is happy at Manchester United and is very excited about the new INEOS project. He wants to recapture his form at Manchester United despite interest from PSG. You know my stance on Marcus Rashford. I think, he's a player that on his day is world class, but the problem with Marcus Rashford is his day is maybe once or twice in a 60-game season, literally. And the other 58 games of the season, he sulks around the pitch. He doesn't work hard enough. He doesn't track back. And he isn't world class. It's as simple as that. He just simply isn't a world class player. You can't just say because he's world class in one game in a season that he has that divine right to be effectively do nothing for the other 58 games. Now, I know football is, a very difficult thing. It's very easy for me to sit here saying, oh, he needs to do better and all the rest of it. But it's all about attitude, isn't it? And we've seen it from some of the legends of Manchester United. When you look back to the Roy Keanes, those types of people, they would go out on that pitch and give 150%. It doesn't matter if they're playing a relegation struggling team, or if they effectively had nothing to play for. They would give 150% every single game. At the moment, Erik ten Hag has said that every game is a cup final. And that game the other day against Fulham, Rashford would lose the ball. He wouldn't run back and try and get it back. And that would just happen over and over and over again. And there's other players who do the same as well. But I think, for me, Marcus Rashford is done at Manchester United. I don't want him here anymore. I think, the amount of money that you could sell him for as well to a club like PSG, and the fact that would be 100% profit, I think it's an absolute no-brainer. And I just hope that INEOS come in and they show some balls, to be honest, and they just remove these types of people. Because Omar Barada at Man City was known for saying that if a player hasn't performed and they've been there for 2 years, they'll get rid of them. Marcus Rashford's obviously come through the youth academy. He's been here for 7 or 8 years in the first team, right? He's probably had one season last year where he was very good. He had a couple of seasons where I think, he did okay and maybe got 15 goals or something like that. But generally, last season, I think he got 5 goals in all competitions. This season, I think he's probably on about the same. Maybe I'll double check that just to, get my facts right. But you can't be hot and cold all the time. It maybe one season out of 5, you might have a poor season, but it can't be that you have one good season. Yeah, he's got 5 goals in all competitions this season, which is for an attacking player playing in a team that are playing transitional counter-attacking football, that's not very good. Obviously, last season was incredible. He got 30 goals. Really, really good, That is a world-class player there, 30 goals. But then you go to the season before that, he got 5 goals, So 5 goals this season, 30 goals last season, 5 goals the season before. There's a clear pattern here, isn't there, where one season he does well, the next season he doesn't do well. One season he does well, the next season he doesn't do well. And it just repeats over and over again. And for me personally, I think he should be gone in the summer. That's my take on it. But obviously you guys can let me know in the comment section what your thoughts are on Marcus Rashford. Would you like him to stay? Do you think he should go? Do you think his time's up? Always interested to see what you guys have to say, so make sure you get in the comment section. Welcome to everybody who's joining the live stream as well. This is a live video, so I will read out some of your comments a little bit later on in the video, so make sure you get your comments in the live stream. And if you are watching this video live as well, guys, you can get involved in the poll. The question I have for everybody, obviously if you're watching this back on repeat, you can get involved as well. The question is simple. Do you think INEOS will sack Erik ten Hag? And it's been worded in a slightly different way to usual, okay? So I'm not asking you whether you want to sack Erik ten Hag. I'm asking whether you think INEOS will sack Erik ten Hag, because there's 2 differences here. You might want something and INEOS might do something different. So I want you guys to let me know. Do you think INEOS will sack Erik ten Hag? And you know what, guys? Over the last couple of days, my feeling has changed massively. And we'll talk about this in a minute. I'll bring you all of the sources, all of the different, bits of information. But I personally do think that INEOS are going to sack Erik ten Hag. I think it's inevitable now. I think it is coming. I'll explain my reasons why, and I'll give you the managers that we've been linked to. But I just think it's coming. I do, and it's not what I want personally, but Yeah, I have a feeling that they will. So if I was to get involved in this poll and I was to vote, I would say yes, I do think INEOS will sack Erik ten Hag personally. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Right, and I'll give you a bit of information that's come out this morning, which is why I've started to formulate this opinion. Because I think it's important to give context when we're talking about these types of things, so it's not just spouting random rubbish. So Samuel Luckhurst has come out this morning, saying that, where is he? Samuel Luckhurst. So he said, INEOS are understood to now have analysed potential replacements for Erik ten Hag should they decide to remove him from his position. A well-placed source has said Jim Ratcliffe is not 100% convinced on Erik ten Hag. I mean, that's coming from Samuel Luckhurst, who is the Manchester United correspondent for the Manchester Evening News. Very reliable journalist, only reports on on Manchester United. That's it. He then goes on to say that Robert De Zerbi is apparently to be of interest to Manchester United, but he is also seen as one of the leading candidates to replace Pep Guardiola at Man City. And then it also says that figures at Man United accept there is noise around Erik ten Hag's position at the moment, but the club still maintain that they can have a successful season should they win the FA Cup and finish in the top 4. So obviously we play Nottingham Forest away from home tomorrow in the FA Cup. I have a feeling that if we were to lose to Nottingham Forest and then lose badly to Man City on Sunday, I think his position would be almost unsavable. Because if we were to lose to Nottingham Forest, obviously that would mean there's no chance of a trophy. If we lose to Man City on Sunday, which everyone expects us to do anyway, but it's the manner of which the result goes. If we lose 1-0 and we put up a bit of a fight, maybe he'll get some credit. But I think we're all expecting to go to Man City and get absolutely slaughtered, aren't we, realistically? Even if we beat Fulham the other day, I would still expect us to go and probably lose to Man City. Best case scenario, we draw. So say we do lose to Man City on Sunday. You never know. We might perform a miracle and win, but, let's be realistic. We currently sit 8 points behind Aston Villa at this moment in time. Aston Villa played Luton Town on the weekend. Obviously, Luton is not an easy game ever. We saw that when we played them. Obviously, Arsenal struggled against them. Liverpool did. But I imagine, Aston Villa will beat Luton. They might not, but if they do, they'd then be 11 points ahead of us, which at that point, 11 points ahead with only 11 games left. I think it's about 30 points left to play for. Do we really think that we're going to catch up? I mean, if we're 11 points behind Aston Villa and there are only 30 points left to play for, like Aston Villa would have to lose probably, let's try and work it out. Aston Villa would have to lose probably half of their remaining games and we'd have to win pretty much all of them to have any chance. And we've still got to play Chelsea away. We've got to play Liverpool at home, who are obviously in a title race. We've got to play Arsenal at home, who are in a title race. We've got to play Newcastle. We've still got some difficult teams left to play. So I think, if we were to lose to Nottingham Forest on tomorrow evening and then lose to Man City on Sunday, obviously no hope of a trophy then. And I would also then imagine that we would be effectively out of the top 4 race. I know it's still early on in the season. I know nothing's, 100% concrete until the season ends, but we have to wait and see. Everybody who's just joined the video, by the way, please do smash a like on today's video. Let's try and hit 100 likes on today's show. It doesn't cost you any money. It's completely free. And if you are new, please subscribe as well. But yeah, keeping on the topic of managers, there's a couple of other managers that we've been linked to in the last 24 hours, which I wanted to talk about. One of them is Simon Inzaghi. I've probably said his name wrong. He's currently the Inter Milan manager. And the story is this, that Manchester United and Chelsea are currently monitoring Inter Milan manager Simon Inzaghi. His contract at Inter runs out in 2025. United are ready to offer him a 8 million a year euros deal. He's currently on 5.5 million euros. It's another name to add to the list, isn't it? You've got obviously Nagelsmann, you've got Inzaghi, you've got Hansi Flick, you've got obviously people like Conte. I mean, there's a lot of managers available at the moment. There really, really is. A lot of good managers as well. And the problem that obviously everyone knows is Liverpool need a new manager. Bayern Munich need a new manager. There's someone else I'm forgetting who needs a new manager as well. Who announced that their manager is going to leave at the end of the season? Barcelona need a new manager. So literally Barca need a new manager, Bayern need a new manager, and Liverpool need a new manager. And I think also Dortmund need a new manager. So already there's like 4 or 5 top clubs who are in search of a new manager for the summer. And if Manchester United are going to sack Erik ten Hag, if they're not convinced about him, then whether I want that to happen or not is irrelevant. if they are 100% going to remove Erik ten Hag and they're not convinced by him, they need to be proactive and they need to identify who the number one target is now. Because if they wait till the summer, all of the top managers will be gone. Bayern Munich will take somebody, Liverpool will take somebody, Barcelona will take somebody, and we'll be left with whatever's left. And whatever's left could be like our fourth or fifth option. It will end up being Graham Potter, I'm sure of it. But whereas if we, are active now and we go out there, maybe we can then bring in somebody better, I mean, even PSG, they might sack their manager if he doesn't win the Champions League, So there's so many different things out there. So let's talk about Simon Inzaghi really, really quickly. Let's see what he's achieved in world football. He's 47 years of age, so he's quite young. He's won the Super Cup with Italy 5 times, which is okay. And he's won the Italian Cup 3 times as well. So as far as I can see, he's never actually won the Serie A. But he has won like the FA Cup and the League Cup quite a few times, which is, I mean, it's not great, is it? I wouldn't say that he's, much better than Erik ten Hag experience-wise personally, but yeah, I wouldn't go for him. I wouldn't. I think honestly, like for me personally, the only manager that would like really, really excite me if we were to replace Erik ten Hag would be Zidane, I think. I know Zidane's been out of it for quite some time, but I don't know. I just feel like if Zidane was our manager, it would excite me. I don't know. Maybe I'm being naive here. But winning 3 Champions Leagues on the bounce, regardless of whether you say he has a super team and all the rest of it, we've seen PSG have a super team and they don't win the Champions League. So I think, it's a little bit of an easy excuse to say, oh, well, Zidane only won the Champions League 3 times because he had X, Y, and Z. I mean, PSG had some of the best players in the world and have never won a Champions League in their whole history, let alone three in a row. So I think, if it was somebody like Zinedine Zidane coming in, it would be very difficult to not be excited about that, being completely honest. Like, I would be excited about that. I would. There's no doubt about it. If someone said to me now, okay, Zinedine Zidane's going to come in, they're going to remove 10 plus players from the team, Maguire, Lindelof, Donny van de Beek, Sancho, obviously Martial, like all of these people are going, and we're going to have £200-300 million to give Zidane. It would be impossible for me to not be excited about that. I'll be honest, it would. Obviously, I'd be a bit sad that it didn't work out with Erik ten Hag, but I would be okay with it. But the real key thing for me here is, right, and this is what I said on my video the other day, is that the sacking of a manager doesn't empower these current players. That's what has to happen. If sacking Erik ten Hag means that, all of these players get a second chance, Maguire, Lindelof, Sancho, Donny van de Beek, obviously Martial's contract's up, so he wouldn't be included. But I mean, Christian Eriksen, Amrabat, like the list goes on and on. McTominay, like there's so many players in this squad that have survived the sacking of so many different managers. There's so many players in the squad that have been part of, vital parts of these managers getting sacked. And for me personally, the most important thing here is that is effectively that that a lot of these players are moved on. That's what has to happen for me here. So yeah, I'm not like 100% Erik ten Hag in. I'm not like I 100% believe in Erik ten Hag, because I don't. You'd be naive if you could sit here honestly and say, I can see what Erik ten Hag's trying to do. I can see the patterns of play. I can see, things have improved. They haven't really, have they? But I think a lot of that is down to the players. For me personally, that's my own opinion on it. I appreciate that, some managers come into to lesser teams with lesser players and perform better. I get that. And maybe Erik ten Hag could have got more out of these players. Maybe they don't like the way he trains. Maybe they don't like him. But I just don't think that these players warrant really having an opinion anymore. I know that sounds stupid because obviously they're allowed an opinion, but they've had so many managers sacked. They've down tools so many times. I don't trust them anymore. So for them to be like, oh, we don't like his training methods, we don't like that he only lets us have one dessert a week, etc., etc. I saw a really interesting video. I can't remember who it was. I can't remember who it was, but it was an interview with an ex-Man United player, and they were talking about Louis van Gaal, and they were talking about when they were a player for Louis van Gaal, and they were saying that, I mean, this is mad. This is an example of it, okay, of what the Dutch managers can be like. So apparently Louis van Gaal, after a training session, would then go and do a meeting straight after, okay, for an hour every single day. And they wouldn't have eaten any of these players, and they were used to having their dinner right after training, okay? That sounds pathetic, okay? And then what Louis van Gaal would do is he he would have a 3-course meal after every single training session, and none of the other players were allowed to leave their seat until he'd finished his meal. Like, things like that. Who was it? It was Wayne Rooney. It was on the Overlap, the Gary Neville podcast, which I really like, with Wayne Rooney. And he was saying, yeah, when I was there, the players didn't like Louis van Gaal because of his, like, they thought strange methods. And I feel like it's probably the same with Erik ten Hag. I feel like he probably has got some things that these players don't like. But the point I'm trying to make here is, I don't care whether the players like it anymore. They're playing for the biggest club in the world. They're being paid ridiculous amounts of money to go and wear that iconic, beautiful Manchester United shirt, to play in the biggest stadium outside of Wembley in the UK, with the biggest fan base and the most supporting, loving, community of United fans around the world. Like, they should feel honoured to play for us, And I think that they've sacked so many managers over the last kind of 10 years, They down tools for Ollie, they down tools for Mourinho, they down tools for Van Gaal, etc., etc. I don't trust them anymore, and I don't respect them. So yeah, as long as the players go, I think a new manager, like, I could be open to it. I just fear that sacking the manager will mean empowering the players. That's my biggest concern here. Fred says we have to start immediately to replace Erik ten Hag. I agree. They need to at least know who the replacement's going to be, because they can't just, risk it into the summer. People in the chat are talking about De Zerbi. Yeah, I mean, De Zerbi's another option. So there's a story this morning about De Zerbi, actually, which I wanted to bring onto the show. Actually, we already spoke about De Zerbi. So yeah, apparently Man City are interested in him, and Manchester United. I'm not that convinced by De Zerbi, to be honest with you guys. I'm not. Yeah, it's a no from me, but obviously I appreciate, everyone has differing opinions. But yeah, that's everything that we had planned for on this morning's show. Make sure you get in the comment section, guys. The question for today's video is, do you think INEOS will sack Erik ten Hag? And remember, I'm asking whether you think they will, not whether you want him to be sacked or not. So do you think Jim Ratcliffe's going to remove Erik ten Hag from his position? And you get bonus points if you let me know who you think they're going to replace him with. Thanks, everybody. I'll be back live at 6 p.m. UK time. Have a great day. Please like the video before you go. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. This has been Daily Riz.